Hi, I'm Hillary Bradbury, and I'm your host on this month's Good News Pod, and I am super excited to welcome our guest today, Nancy DeVetter, Managing Attorney of DeVetter Law Firm. And I'm not sure if you're aware, but this month is Second Chance Month, and we're here to chat all about expungement resources right here in our community. Nancy, welcome to the pod.
Thank you, Hillary. I am so excited to be here. I love Goodwill, all things Goodwill. And, I've been working with Goodwill for years, and I am so excited to talk about that work and about Second Chance Month and, whatever else comes up.
You are no stranger to Goodwill, Nancy, and we're so happy that you're here and all the resources that you've provided to our clients. And for those who may not know, can you tell us a little bit about Second Chance Month and why it's important right now in our community?
Absolutely. Second Chance Month is April, and it's the month where we talk about people that have been through the criminal justice system, are people with criminal records, are justice impacted, people that have had made a mistake in their life, or someone in their family has. I mean, really the thing that shocks me about expungement work and helping people with criminal records is just how many people it affects in our state.
So many.
I mean, we're talking about millions of people. 30 to 40% of Georgians have something on their record, which is just absolutely incredible. When I give these talks in a room, I don't ask people to raise their hand if they're justice impacted.
We appreciate that.
But I do think it's important for people to know that it is so common.
Mm-hmm.
Most people in Georgia who have a criminal record have a single misdemeanor. They have a DUI, they have a misdemeanor marijuana, a shoplifting. They were in the wrong place at the wrong time during a college fight, especially in the Savannah area. We have people that come down here to let loose.
Right.
And leave, with some sort of criminal record. And the thing about it is that there's just this deep sense of shame about having a criminal
Absolutely.
record. So you probably don't know how many people in your life have a criminal record. But the chances are that it is, if you don't have a criminal record, your friend does, your family member does. It just affects so many people in our community. And what I want to do is have the conversation. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the people that it impacts, because they're your neighbors, they're your friends. Yeah. And in Georgia, for people, it is such a barrier to get a housing and especially a job. We still have a knee-jerk reaction to people that have a criminal record. We talk about it there being in one box versus the other. Research shows that people with criminal records are better employees, and that they're no likely to reoffend after, I think it's 5 to 7 years, than anybody else. Most people get a criminal record when they're below 28. Of course, right? They're
when we make our best decisions.
That's right. When they're testing boundaries. And obviously, there's science behind brain development and that sort of thing. But after you reach past that time, you're no more likely to offend than anybody else. But most people don't understand that. They don't know that. They think if you have made this one-time mistake, or that you've done this one thing in your 20s, that it shouldn't affect you for life. But unfortunately, that's kind of how the system falls.
Right. And I think you bring up a really great point. I think a lot of us don't understand that this barrier affects so many different facets of life. And one of the things that we do here at Goodwill is really look at those barriers that are keeping somebody from being successful in a multitude of areas, not just with work. And I think what you're saying is really important, that there's so many decisions that happen in an instant that have ramifications, or that we perceive to have ramifications that can't be fixed. And can you tell us a little bit about that expungement process, or what you and your team at DeVetter Law do?
Absolutely. So expungement, and I call it expungement, even though the technical word in Georgia is record restriction and sealing.
Okay.
So to be technical about it, expungement is the word that people aren't familiar with.
Right.
But when you remove something from your public record, and to be clear, you remove from the public record. In Georgia, you don't totally erase, or, your file doesn't go into the shred or burn box, right? What happens is that it gets removed from who can see it.
Okay.
So a lot of people are familiar with the juvenile court system, which is that you might go through the juvenile court system for something you did in school, but it's sealed and no one can see it, right? So it doesn't follow you for the rest of your life.
Right.
So what we do in Georgia is we essentially cut off access. We restrict the record. And in Georgia, it's a two-step process. First, you remove the arrest from your official criminal record. We'll talk a bit later, I think, about what that means. But then you also usually have to do the second step of sealing your record, which is the court record. And in the internet age, and that's the other thing about expungements, is that 30 years ago, if you got drunk in college and, someone took you home, or you had something back then that, or a charge, it might not have affected you, right? Because no one was going out of the courthouse and pulling up your 80s misdemeanor.
Right.
But now everything's online, and as courthouses update their systems, internet bots are scraping that information. They're selling that data.
Oh, man.
There's even courthouses that sell that data. There's a balance, right? You want openness and transparency with the criminal justice system. But what the effect is that people's old criminal records are now popping up and affecting them.
Right.
So there's, and that's why sealing is so important. That is the second step in record restriction. Right. So we have the record restriction, and then we seal the court record. But prosecutors can always see it. Immigration, when you go through TSA, they can still see your record, but only law enforcement would be able to see it.
Okay.
So I think that's important for
public,
people to know.
Yeah, the public part of it out of
the
that
public part.
conversation.
So employers, housing providers, your kid's school, perhaps, when you want to go volunteer. There's different levels of access, of course, depending on your charge. But that's essentially how the expungement process works in Georgia, is you have to do the double step to remove who has access to your record.
That's really helpful and a good clarifying information for everyone who might be interested in this. And so when someone is coming in for one of the events that we host here at Goodwill with you all, what documents or what preparation do they need before they come on site to really make the most out of that appointment?
The number one thing they need is a copy of their official criminal record.
Okay.
And that is called your GCIC, which is your Georgia Crime Information Center record, which we call for short GCIC, GCIC is a division of the GBI, and they're the clearinghouse for all criminal records. So when people come in, they need to have a copy of that report because it is generally your private information. I can look up your court case maybe online, like we were just talking about. But in order to know what your eligibility is, I need that official rap sheet.
Okay.
You can get that from any police department.
Okay.
Usually it charges $25. And it's very important for people to bring in what we call the purpose code U, GCIC. The U is your personal copy. In my mind, U means unrestricted. I might not technically be correct about that, but a lot of people pull their E, which is for employment, and that doesn't include everything. It includes things that are already restricted. And when we do a legal analysis, we need to know if you've had something restricted, but we're very familiar with it. We do our arrest eraser frequently every month here.
Yes.
We so appreciate you hosting us.
Such a great resource.
We do it the second Monday of every month from 5 to 7. And so we encourage people to sign up online. And we say online, too, bring your GCIC. Because we've had people that drive from Florida or Atlanta, and they come and they don't have their record. I'm like, okay, well, we can only do so much. I'm glad you came. It's incredible to me that people are so in need of this resource that they will travel hours to come and meet with us. But it really kind of, without the GCIC, we're really in the dark about their whole story.
Can't take too many steps forward. And do you find that people or individuals that you've worked with have had a hard time accessing that information or knowing where to go, or the cost? Is any of that an additional burden for individuals?
It can be, people that have, in my experience, people that have had criminal records have learned to deal with in 3 years, right? Of course, we have people that need their criminal record expunged because they can't get a job. And if they don't have a job, then even $25 is a barrier.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't feel like a lot, but when that's what's standing between you and a full-time job or any kind of employment, it's one more thing.
A big deal, right? And I don't want people to have to go to too many doors to get served, which is another reason I like working with Goodwill, is because you guys have the wraparound services for people that are looking for jobs, providing job training, and you guys cover GCIC costs for people, which is such a benefit.
We don't want it to be that last piece that you just can't jump over that hurdle. So that's kind of speaks to the partnership and how all of these individuals working together with you and us can help kind of make a big difference. And I know you've mentioned you speak with lots of people at these clinics, hundreds, and they're coming from various distances. But who's not coming? Who are we missing reaching with this opportunity and this resource that we want to connect with and that we feel like we could help?
Well, again, there's so much misconception about this area.
Mm-hmm.
And what is missing are the people that don't even know that they now have the option to do expungements.
Mm-hmm.
Georgia law changed significantly in 2021 to finally allow expungements of convictions. Before 2021, the only thing you could expunge was a non-conviction. And it took us until 2013 or 2014 to even allow you to take things you weren't even convicted of off your record, which is just wild to me. Georgia has been very far behind the curve with allowing people to move past a criminal record. There's, of course, a lot of rules. You're not going to be able to expunge violent offenses or crimes against children. But most misdemeanors and drug felonies, if you can go through the pardon process, are now expungible. So who's missing is people that don't know that, right? People have researched this in in 2019. They're like, okay, there's nothing I can do.
Right, this is life now.
This is my life. I'm stuck with this charge forever. And talking to people that have that sense of shame about their charges, and so many of the people we talk to, they don't apply for new jobs. Right. They kind of freeze themselves out from opportunities. They don't talk about it. They just live with it. And, that is so heartbreaking to me. Some people can't live their best lives and provide for their families because they don't know that there's now opportunities. So that is us. We're spreading the gospel. Like, you now have opportunity. You now have rights. And so many, I think that's who's missing, is people that don't know that they even have the option, and that they could take these simple steps to make a huge difference in their lives. Because we know that having a job is the number one of the highest and best ways to avoid future criminal activity is to have a good job. People that have a good job don't commit crimes, right? The data shows that. So, we really want to make sure that everybody knows what their rights are. If they're eligible for expungement, they get it done. And that so they can access all the opportunities they should.
I mean, really, the information is key, whether you need to change the course of your life or make decisions based on that knowledge, I think is really key. So that's a great point, Nancy. Now, on these expungement clinic days that we host here together, tell us a little bit about what that day looks like. Walk us through the clinic experience and what individuals might expect.
Yeah, absolutely. So first, we have on our website, we have a place where people can sign up ahead of time. So we get their information. We have them sign a form that says that, it's important for us to explain that even though I'd like to do all your work for free for you for the rest of your life, because I'm a former legal aid attorney, we are only doing this one thing, right? You'll sign a couple of forms giving us permission to look at your information, and that we are giving you legal advice just for this one situation. And then we ask people to bring their GCICs.
Right.
So hopefully people have come, they've already signed up. If not, there's a little bit of delay. We get them registered, we get them to sign the forms to make sure they understand what this is, right? This is a clinic, and we're going to look at your record, and we're going to talk to you. We're going to give you advice about your situation. And we have some great skilled paralegals and me, and even sometimes volunteer attorneys, that we can look at your GCIC and determine what you're eligible for almost instantly. I can look at a GCIC and knock it out in 5 minutes and say, okay, this is eligible, this is eligible. And for some of the things that they're eligible for, we have the forms there. So we will sit them down, help them fill out the form for your misdemeanor expungement or for your non-conviction. There's some, for example, the Chatham County DA has an online form. I remember one woman, we came in, we did 4 motions for her. And we said, we filled out her motions, we made extra copies. We sent her on her way. So she is eligible to expunge 4 things off the record. And, we did the forms with her. So we fill out we have fill in the blank forms for people.
Right.
But we walk them through it to make sure. Now, if we're super busy, we'll just send you with the form. And then we just cross our fingers that you're able to do the form.
Right.
We have a very detailed instruction sheet. So if it's a form that you need to do, we have those sample forms, and we'll send you on your way. If it's a more complicated situation, we'll figure that out. If we need to refer you to another state agency, we'll try to figure that out. For a lot of people, if they have a felony record, we have to walk them through what the pardon process. We fill out essentially a closing letter that says, here's what we told you to do. And we scan that and save it in our system. That way we know, what your options were in case you come back. People are so busy, right? Especially people with children and full-time jobs. And I remember so many of my clients, especially with the criminal record, sometimes it's hard to get full-time employment. So you have 3 or 2 jobs that you're putting together.
You're cobbling together a future.
And, hopefully Goodwill can elevate them out of that. But if not, filling out this form, is something that takes a long time. But we tell people, I say, come back next month.
Right.
Do this, come back next month. Come back the week before you have your hearing, if you get scheduled for court, so that we can talk to you about presenting your case. We really want to provide all that information for people because I think we do it every day, so it's familiar for us, but I think it's really overwhelming for a lot of people.
Oh, I can only imagine if you're not in that situation all the time. And I think what just struck me, Nancy, as we were talking is that moment that people realize that this can really be done, this can be overcome, and things in the future can look brighter. Tell us about that moment when you see that connection made with people that you're working with. That's got to feel amazing.
It is so cool to see people have that relief, right? I mean, again, people with criminal records have been living with them for usually decades. I mean, we've expunged charges from the 60s, 70s, 80s, the shame.
Yes.
I mean, so many of our clients have said, I feel like a second-class citizen because this has been over my head. So having people see that they have the option to get rid of that, it's really, to me, it's kind of it's a quiet transition. We do have some information out on the internet. A lot of people have researched it. I'm very thankful for the internet. Unfortunately, most of the internet is wrong about Georgia expungements. I know. But we have a YouTube video out there that explains people's rights, and we have information on our website. So people will come in and say, okay, I think this is eligible. And so they kind of have that hope.
Right.
But when we confirm it for them, and you can tell, I think when they leave, they're just a little lighter. They just feel like, someone listened to them and met with them where they are. And again, I think people have such a hard time talking about it. And we still have talked to so many people. When you're going through the pardon process, you are supposed to get 3 letters of recommendation for some of the requests. And people have said, no one in my life knows, right? They don't know that I was with, this group in college and we broke into a house, right? And we all have robbery felonies. And it's the only time I've ever been in trouble. But I can't tell my employer. I can't ask them for a letter of reference. It's not coming up on my record because it's so long ago.
Right.
It's still hanging over my head. I still want to do things about it. Or I want to apply for, we have our clients are applying for high-level positions. They haven't applied because they know it comes with a background check. And they've been successful so far. But then now, they're trying to become, a banker or some sort of, usually a higher professional license.
Right.
We had one client, she was up for essentially doubling her salary.
Oh, that's life-changing.
Yes. And we were able to expunge her record and she got the promotion. And, now she's able to help her mom do all this stuff. It was just really, all these incredible stories about people who've been held back. But, they can't talk to people in their life about it. And so I really want the clinic to be a space where you can come and be honest. And we get it, right? We, can meet you where you are, familiar with these stories. Some of us ourselves have criminal records. We've been there, we want this to be a place where you can feel relieved that you can talk about this and maybe even have the relief of getting it off your record. And of course, know your rights and know how to move on a little bit.
That's a really nice safe space to provide for somebody that's going through that. Just the power of hope, right? When you walk in and you think, okay, what could life look like now? I think that's really important. And I love that. What do you think the biggest misconception, and I know you've mentioned a lot, but is there a biggest or most common misconception of people who have a record before they come in about what that means for everything in the future?
Well, there's different levels, I think, that we're fighting when we educate about this. I've spoken with HR representatives and employers too, and the stigma of people with criminal records that they're dangerous individuals or that they're, you can't hire them because they'll attack your other employee. That's just not true. We want to equalize opportunities for people, understanding that everyone makes mistakes.
Is there a new arrest eraser project you wanted to mention today?
Yes, thank you for bringing that up. What we've found from our clinic is that in order for us to grow the clinic and to do more of this work, that it would be better suited to put that project under as a nonprofit. So what we've done is we're transitioning our expungement work and the clinic to be under a nonprofit, because we understand if we do that, we might be eligible for additional assistance and maybe some grants that would allow us to hire folks to call you every 30 days and say, hey, did you do that form? What are your questions? Hey, do you need someone to come to court with you? Right? Maybe we can connect you with a volunteer attorney from our local bar, to really have us be able to grow this project. Because, like I said, we have people driving across the state to come to our clinic. But also I'm scared about too many people coming to the clinic because, our firm really these days focuses on probate and estate planning. That's the bread and butter. And if we have 100 people show up to a clinic, it really overwhelms the firm. So we'd like to kind of draw a line between the arrest eraser work and kind of the day-to-day of what our firm does, so that we can really grow that. We would like to make more informational videos. I have one YouTube video out there that like everyone who sees, they tell me about it. But we just haven't had the resources to do more informational materials and really lean in to making sure that people have the correct information, that they have more opportunities. It is such a great need that's not being met. So if we can grow our Restoration Project to meet more need, that's what we want to do.
That's really incredible. And I think even just the education portion, like you're sharing, knowing that there's a resource available to give people the information that they want and need as they begin this journey, if possible, is really helpful. And there's a lot of information, but as you mentioned, not all of it's great.
Yes.
It's there.
Yes.
So what a great resource for the community. This has been such an impactful conversation for me as I'm learning more about the work that you do and just how it affects people. Is there anything else that you would want the team here at Goodwill or the community to know about you and what you all are doing?
Well, after all my talks, I always say, I don't expect you to remember any of this. The thing is, we do this all day, a lot. Not all day, every day like we used to, because we do other legal work now. But I remember talking to someone and I was like, all you have to do for an expungement is file a motion. They're like, what's a motion? I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. So I tell people what I want people to take from this is I don't expect you to remember anything. We just want you to know that we're a resource you can come to, right? So if you or any of your advocates have a question about criminal records, to look us up, send people to the clinic, and that it is just part of a larger story to do this work. And one thing that I want to mention is that, again, I came from Georgia Legal Services, which is a legal aid attorneys group. It's a nonprofit. And they come to every clinic too, right? Awesome. So they potentially are a group of attorneys, and they also connect with volunteer attorneys. So if people are eligible, they do have a grant to handle local expungements. So we really want people to obviously know about the clinic. We do want people to understand that our partnership is for a reason, right? And Goodwill is a part of this puzzle where maybe we can help you with your criminal record, but, Goodwill specifically helps people with barriers, right? Like that's, and I'm on the Goodwill board. I had no idea how much job training and readiness Goodwill does. So for them to, come to an opportunity center, right? See if you can come to the clinic, see if our partnership can help lift people up to better opportunities.
I think that's amazing. And we are so grateful for your partnership. And I think now is the perfect time during Second Chance Month to remind everyone that there is hope in the future and that there are resources available to help you see a brighter path forward. And we are, again, really grateful for what you all do and partner.
Thank you, Hillary.
Thank you for joining us. And we will put some links to these resources so that we can help propel that information and those resources forward.
Thank you, Nancy.